So now that we've talked about the fields and the overall purpose of the PhraseMatchSpliterator, let's talk about its constructor and its tryAdvance method. This will also be a recap, so I'll go through it quickly. I could have just directed you back to the earlier video, but it would have been cumbersome to go back and try to find them in the many videos we've done so far. So here's the constructor. The constructor for PhraseMatchSpliterator is going to take the input string and the search phrase. And you can see the very first thing it does is it makes a regular expression using the phrase, trimming it to get rid of white space, making the phrase basically a word, if you will, and then replacing various things like multiple spaces with a single space and so on and so forth. So it's a very complicated regular expression, but when all is said and done, we can use this to match for those phrases in the input string. The next thing we do is we go ahead and compile that regular expression, and we want it to be case insensitive, so lowercase and uppercase characters are treated the same. We want it to match across lines, and we then take that pattern, the regular expression pattern, and then we go ahead and we associate it with a matcher, and the matcher is going to take the input and the regular expression and create a phrase matcher. And that's what's going to be used to actually look up for each of those phrases. We then stash away the parameters, the input and the phrase into local fields. And then we set the min split size to be input.length divided by 2. And so what we're doing is we're taking the entire size of the input, we're dividing it by 2, and we're using that as the min split size. And what this means, in effect, is for this particular program, that for every work of Shakespeare, we're going to break it up into 4 chunks and search those 4 chunks in parallel. I did that just with a little trial and error, trying to see what happened. Probably a better way to do this would have to do it relative to the number of cores that are available on the processor, because it doesn't really make sense to split this up into really tiny chunks, because if you've only got 4 cores, having lots of chunks aren't going to give you a win, because everything here is compute bound. Searching the phrases is compute bound operation. And we'll see that this field is used by the try-split method that we'll look at in just a minute. Okay, so that's basically the constructor. Here's tryAdvance. Remember, tryAdvance is the method that's called by the Java Streams framework when it gets to a point where the input can no longer be split up any further, because the try-split method is returned null, like your array splitterator. You return null when you got down to a size of 0 or 1. And in that case, then the Java Streams framework will then call tryAdvance to see if it can search through the input string and find a phrase match. So that's what tryAdvance does. tryAdvance is passed an action, which is a consumer, and that's used to pass the result back. You'll see how that works in a second. We then check to see if there's any phrases remaining in the input. And phrase matcher is stateful, so it remembers where it left off. So the first time you call it, it'll search in the string to find a regular expression match, if any. If it doesn't find one at all, it'll return false. If it does find one, then it'll go ahead and go down here to this branch, and it'll accept a new result object that keeps track of where the PhraseMatchSpliterator found the match plus the offset. And this is what's used to make sure that we give an absolute value into the original work of Shakespeare. So that result object is then accepted into the action, and true is returned. Now, if true is returned, that is an indication to the Streams framework to try calling tryAdvance again in the same thread. And the next time it goes back, it'll once again call PhraseMatcher.find. And if it doesn't find a match that time, it returns false. If it does find another match in that string, then once again, it'll go back and accept that match, keep track of where it started, and then return true. And then it'll keep doing this over and over again until the PhraseMatcherFind method finally returns false. Any questions about that? Okay, so that was basically a recap. But this makes a lot more difference now that we're talking about the parallel version, because we're going to see how they all fit together with the try-split.